Okay, welcome everyone. This is the 5 to 8 star mastermind call. We have a special guest in the hot seat today. The one, the only superstar, numerous time top 10, Bonnie Engle. We all know Bonnie. We all love Bonnie. And we are thrilled to have her on this call. So Bonnie, why don't you kind of you're off mute. Why don't you kind of tell us just about a little bit about like your Beachbody journey so far, what you've done, where you're at today, kind of give us the rundown.
Sure. What's up, guys? I'm Bonnie. Hey. I've been a coach for, oh my gosh, I actually think it's coming up on 6 years, which makes me sound really Beachbody old. And I have realized lately that I'm Beachbody old because I still speak in old Beachbody language. So I have changed that the past couple days. I signed up to be a coach in January, the end of January 2014. And my life has been so crazy since I signed up. You know, my husband and I are expecting our second child right now, which was a little bit of a surprise. So we were thrust into 2-kid life. But when I started this business, I was the wife to a full-time Air Force man who worked, 16 some hours a day. And all I had was my little baby business and my 2 dogs. And it has been a serious roller coaster ride since then. He is retired. Our team has been 4-time elite, 3-time top 5 in the network, which is just so crazy. And a lot of life changes, a lot of, starting the business as one thing and then moving cross country and experiencing a lot of life, experiencing becoming parents and what the business looks like through that kind of lifestyle as well. So I really feel as though I've been through a lot in this business and it has taken us to this point in life right now. We're remodeling our dream home that we just bought. And we're really back in hustle mode now that we are expecting our second kid, which is really exciting. So that's a little bit about where I am in my life. So I think that are there questions already for me, or is it just we're going to type them in the chat box?
We're just going to kind of have them just start asking them now. So if you guys want to take yourselves off mute, you can ask a question or type them in the chat.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hey, Bonnie, my name's Alethea, and I'm curious, in all of your years of Beachbody and coaching, have you found yourself ever having to rebuild? And have you found yourself up here, and then you kind of go down here, and then you realize you need to rebuild and not start over, but in a sense with your team?
Girl, I feel like you just explained every single solitary day, week, month, year in this business. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that graphic. I'm sure you have. And it's like day in the life of an entrepreneur, and it's a roller coaster. And it's like, oh my God, I'm amazing. And then 10 minutes later, it's like, I suck. No one likes me. And then 20 minutes later, you're like, I am the shit. Listen, that will be every day of your life in this business. Every month you will feel like, I need to rebuild. At the end of each year, when the year turns over, you will feel like you need to rebuild. This business is a people business, which is constantly changing and evolving and growing. And because we work with people and for people and alongside of people, there are so many things that are out of our control. And the only thing that really is in our control is how hard and fast we work as individuals. And I think that's really important to remember, and not to focus on, oh my gosh, I'm in a downtime right now, or oh my gosh, I'm in an uptime. One of the biggest mistakes I have made in my business in 6 years was to think that at the all-time high of my business, I was the number 2 coach in the network, and I was this close to being the top coach. And I made the assumption that I could sit back a little bit after that, which was probably the worst decision in my entire business, because I lost a lot of momentum. And you might think, well, you had so much momentum, it was so easy for you to kind of like sit back. And I really saw my team take a note from me and also sit back, because you can never expect your team to match what you're doing. They'll do 25% of what you're doing. You're definitely the pacemaker for that. So instead of paying attention to, first of all, that's normal. But instead of paying attention to, I'm in an uptime or I'm in a downtime, or, you know, gauging how hard you should work, you should always gauge, no matter what's going on in my business, am I setting the correct pace for my team? And are they able to do at least 25% of what I'm doing? If they were doing what I'm currently doing right now, would they be successful? And honestly, that's a gut check that I have to have several times a day with myself, no matter what stage of the business you're in.
Hi, Bon.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey. So this question I've been wanting to ask you. So you onboard lots of new coaches, you're crushing it. What does your process look like when you're working with those new coaches? I'm curious if you have like a pod, if you have a page, if you do calls, and how you kind of, I know you don't drag them, I know you don't do the work for them, but just keep them on pace to show up and stay accountable.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because so last year I took a ton of time to create a self-paced training on my website. And that might sound like really successful and swanky and all that, but it actually backfired. And a lot of the people that I was signing up were not feeling as hands-on, not feeling as simple to start. I was, you know, talking on social media about, oh, it's so fun and easy, and it's the opposite of corporate world, and, you know, we don't communicate through email, and, you know, using my old corporate experience as kind of a juxtaposition to what coaching is. And then I was onboarding them and sending them emails and sending them to a website that was kind of this corporate-like training. And what I found was it didn't keep people's attention, and it was almost too complicated. And I think this is team by team too. Like if you attract a very type A personality who wants a very structured something like that, that's one thing. So I actually, in the past couple of months, went back to what I used to do, which is they sign up with me, they get a welcome email from me that's super simple. It literally says, here's a link to schedule a call with me. Here is a link to our team page. And then here is a link to a chat group. And the chat group is where I do most of the stuff now. I did away with, they still have access to the self-paced training, but it's the fourth bullet in their welcome email and the last bullet. And it's kind of like, if you have time, you can go through this training if you'd like to learn more. But here's your first 3 things that you need to do. You need to schedule a call with me. You need to get in the chat group. And then your first goal is to help 3 people join our group with the same exact package that I helped you with. And then I actually created a super quick start PDF that has clickable buttons. That has been a game changer for our team. I did not create it. I paid someone from Fiverr to create it. But it's literally like a 1-page link that I send in the new coach chat that I start each month. And it comes up with, your first goal is to, here's your first post as a coach to tell everybody that you're a coach. Here's 3 posts that you can do this week as a new coach. Here's how you make your list, and here's examples of messages that you can send for people to join our first challenge group. So it's all based on, here's your first goal. And that's very different than the self-paced training. The self-paced training I made was 21 days long. And it was very like, you know, the first week was mindset. The second week was, here's all the details about what actually is Success Club, how to navigate your back office. And I just really felt disconnected from my new coaches. And I think it was just doing them a disservice. When I signed up back in the day, there wasn't even any kind of training. There was, you get into this Facebook group, and then in the Facebook group, there was this post that said, you need to sign up 3 people. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll go sign up 3 people. I didn't overthink everything, and I just did it. So I kind of tried to go back to, okay, how can I make things simple again, if that makes sense?
I'm curious, do you let the chat pod, and is it on Facebook?
It's on Facebook, yeah.
Okay. Do you let it kind of run itself, or do you like keep fluffing it, and do you kind of keep the energy going?
I think it depends on the group of people. Sometimes the chats are wild and people really, this is where I've gotten really specific about actually saying no to people who want to sign up. Like if they have a negative vibe, or, you know, they're kind of don't feel like they would fit in with that crop of people, I will, you know, send them to another coach on my team who I think might be a better fit. But sometimes I think you have to be really careful about the energies that you let in chat pods, because they can either be very, very bad, very, very quiet, or really good. So the ones that don't talk a lot and who are kind of the ones who I had to follow up with more instead of them following up with me and saying they want to sign up as a coach, I will have to go in, actually have reminders set on my phone now every couple days. Hey, have you checked in with the chat pod? Because that's on me. And I found that I no longer can just, you know, have the mentality that everybody's, you know, going to be fine, the don't drag mentality. I don't drag them, but I do find that if I consistently remember to bring my energy in there, that's all they really need, right? All they really need is like a little message like, hey, how are you doing? And then the other thing that I do on top of that, so I have the pod that I start every single month. And then I have set reminders on my phone. And I have an Excel spreadsheet that everybody goes in when they sign up. And then they get a message from me at 1 week, 2 weeks, and 4 weeks. And those are just check-in messages. That's, you know, if we're talking one-on-one, I won't send it like a lot if they have questions or they're really, you know, depending on how our one-on-one calls go. But if I have those quiet coaches who seem to be kind of withdrawn, then I find that those constant reminder messages throughout the first month kind of like wake them up. But I do kind of police those pods because they can either downward spiral really quick or get quiet really quick.
Okay, guys, keep them coming.
Okay, I have a question, but I have the world's crankiest toddler right now. I am finding that I'm letting her outside. I am finding that I'm struggling with like the after summer slump of my coaches. Do you do anything in the beginning of fall to kind of like pick them back up and get their groove back going after, like, you know, vacation and they're not as dedicated to their workout routines and stuff? Do you do anything to like hype them back up again?
Yeah, so all of my team calls in September are focused on mindset. And we're also doing a mindset, we're calling it Mindset Reset Summit. So for a week, we're doing videos in the big team page on all about mindset, because I feel like everybody gets super excited after summit and there's this big push, and then that excitement kind of fades out. Everybody goes back to school, back to work. We have a lot of teachers on our team, and it's kind of like the momentum does get sucked out of everybody a little bit. So I find that you have to focus on mindset. And then secondarily, what I talk about on a lot of my September calls is how the last quarter of the previous year really dictates the next year. So everybody kind of waits until January to start pushing for next year. But the reality is, if you want to be an elite coach next year, the fourth quarter of the prior year is what counts. And I always try to remind my coaches of that, especially newer coaches who are coming into this business who maybe think, oh, you know, it's family time, it's, you know, November, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and everybody tends to kind of like check out. But I really try to remind them that this time, if you are invested, and I use examples of top coaches who say, you know, the same kind of thing. This is the season right now. Yes, Kate, this is hustle season. And it's really the time that sucks the most, because it's the biggest time where you want to sit back and just kind of let the momentum take you through the end of the year, especially if you're on this call and you're like, I'm already qualified for elite. It's very tempting to kind of like sit back in your seat. But I can tell you from 6 years of experience, the more you sit back now, the worse next year will feel trying to generate that momentum in January. And then a lot of people are disappointed in January when they don't have, you know, we talk about, you know, this resolution season and this big pop in January, February. And then those people are disappointed with their January, February because they haven't put in the legwork in November and December. Actually starting now. So I really try to focus on that mentality in my team calls. We're running a Success Club push group right now for all of our brand new coaches, me and my leaders are. And then we're doing that mindset reset. So really focusing on mindset, because you've got to have that solid going into this final quarter.
All right, I have a question, Bonnie, about the mindset reset. What specifically, like, type of mindset stuff do you talk about? Because there's so, like, mindset's so broad. Do you have, like, specific, like, videos that talk specifically about, like, the mindset around rejection or, like, that kind of stuff? Or is it kind of just, like, broad?
So for me, I find that my team really responds to real life examples that are not Beachbody that I find on YouTube from other salespeople. So yesterday, for example, I did a video on, you know, how everybody is, at least my coaches currently, are very worried about perceptions in this business, what other people on social media think of them. I have a lot of new capable coaches who aren't willing to post because they're scared of what family or friends or people from high school might think. So literally, I will poll the team on, I'll kind of feel out, okay, what are the top 5 mindset things that people are struggling with? And I'll do a poll of, you know, click the one that describes you the most. And it'll be like, I'm afraid of what people think, or I do great at doing my workouts, but I don't know what to post. And whatever the top ones are that people are most struggling with, I will literally take that and type it into Google or YouTube, and YouTube videos and articles from, you know, professional speakers or whoever's doing a YouTube video from a different company about the sales mindset. I'll take those videos, listen to them, do some research, and then I'll translate that into my team page. So for example, yesterday there was an exercise about, I mean, this is kind of morbid, but it really worked. It was an exercise about, you know, imagine that this is your last day on earth. You knew tomorrow was going to be your very last day. Who are the people that you would care the most about saying goodbye to and spending the most time with? And the number one question, and it was a whole exercise taking people through, like, you know, how do you feel this day? What are the things you care about eating and doing and feeling? And then at the end of the exercise, it was like, well, then why do you care what anyone else in the world thinks? And the top 3 answers were, you know, husband, children, parents, family. And then I took them through a different exercise that was, you know, who are the people that come to mind when you feel anxious about posting on social media? And those people were completely different from the other list. And that was the kind of top complaint on the poll that I did. So I try to get really specific about what everybody's actually struggling with instead of just making it broad. But I also feel like it's so important to have other voices than your own. So in the Mindset Reset, we're doing like kind of like we just did a social media school where we had 7 days of videos from all different coaches on our team. And this time we're gonna do all different videos from everybody. So I think it's really important to hear from other voices than your own, because we only have so much perspective, right? Or can listen or read only so many books and videos. So recruiting other people to come in and talk to the same things is really important.
I have a question. So I'm curious, like, I see all the top coaches, and I know that I've been a coach for almost 8 years, and I've had months where I've hit like Success Club 100, and I can't keep track of everybody. So I'm wondering that, you know, we have these like high recruiters, high challenge point, you know, coaches, and I'm sure that you're one of them. So how are you like keeping track of everybody and like building relationships? Like, are you like doing ads, and do you have like pods for your customers, or like how are you managing it? Because I get super overwhelmed.
Yeah, this is the bane of my existence. I am like really not, first of all, I'm not a super high challenge pack point earner. Like, we see people with 100, 200 points. That ain't me, y'all. I had 30 points last month and I was like, yes, like running over the finish line. So don't ever trick yourself into thinking that I'm one of those people. But 30 Success Club points still means 15 people to keep track of. And I did a push last month for new coach recruits. So there was 15 new coaches last month for me to keep track of. And that's a lot of people to have one-on-one relationships with and really actually feel like you're supporting them. I feel like 15, 20 is like my max per month. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not doing an adequate job of keeping relationships going. Because I do tend to feel like you, like when I have too many, it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot about her, and now I feel awful because we haven't talked in 2 weeks type thing. The thing that I have found that works the absolute best, and I'm really not telling you guys to go out and buy an iPad, but I, until this point, have been like a pen and paper type person, but I am not a naturally organized person. Like I don't have a teacher mindset. I don't have that stuff, just kind of makes me feel like I'm working a corporate job. So I tend to really shy away from being super organized. I actually downloaded this organizer for my iPad called GoodNotes. And now, I mean, this might be like old news for some people, but it's literally life-changing for me. I work my entire business from my iPad now because I can literally toggle between like an Instagram conversation and GoodNotes, and I never lose a piece of paper. I never lose a notebook. So up until this point, I always just write the names down, and next to the name, I write notes and what date they signed up and when I need to follow up. Now I have a spreadsheet on here that everybody's name goes into, and it's highlighted in different colors. And then in GoodNotes, I have all of my relationship tracking. So if I'm talking to someone, that's the part that gets stressful for me, is before they sign up. Like, oh, I've talked to this person 3 times and they're in the back of my head, but I'm like, where did I talk to them and what was the last thing that we said to each other? So you can actually go online on Amazon or Etsy, and you can purchase specific trackers that upload into GoodNotes. And there's even like Beachbody specific or MLM specific ones where you can track like people you're talking to or people that have signed up in a challenge group. Those have been game changers for me. I got an Apple Pencil, and I literally just copy and paste names from Instagram, like their handles and stuff, next to their actual names. And one thing I would really encourage that I did this year is I took everything. Yeah, I actually asked Colleen about GoodNotes. She told me the app to download and stuff like that. I took everything off of Instagram and Facebook because I got really scared in the beginning of this year. I mean, we don't own Instagram and Facebook, and I would hate to see any of my coaches or anyone in the network to lose all of their contacts. So I've been really conscious this year about, what are the things that I do own and the platforms that I do own where I can transfer everybody, so that, hey, if I lost my Facebook today or tomorrow, that I wouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know who I'm talking to anymore. So go on Etsy or Amazon and download those things or just look at the trackers and calendars and stuff, because you can just reuse them. You can erase them and reuse them, or you can save them. And it's right to your iPad, which also saves to my phone. So it's really useful.
Okay, so Brenna asked, how do you prospect? Do you close all your sales in a private message, or do you use email marketing?
I do not use email marketing yet. I have an email list that people who follow me on Instagram or click on my link tree or want recipes or whatever the case, I've always built an email list, and I have a blog that goes out every week to those people. But the main way that I prospect is old school messaging people who follow me and watch my stories. I have never been the type of coach where people just sort of flock to me. That's never been my thing. I think that my superpower in coaching is that I never have stopped kicking it old school. I cold message people who watch my stories. I message people who comment on my posts. Yes, I have run ads, but I find that running ads really just only leads to a cold relationship, and there's no background. So it's actually way harder for me to close someone from an ad, because it's kind of like you're doing the work in the reverse order. When you're kind of creating the relationship organically, that relationship is already built, right? So all that work is done up front, so the close feels easier. When you do a marketing campaign or an ad, it's like you have to do all that work on the back end. So you feel like you're doing much more work because you have this relationship, someone's interested, but then you have to wait months for that person to watch you and trust you and feel like what you're offering is real. So I've done both, but recently I've gotten back to okay, what worked for me in the beginning and what was I doing when my business was at its most successful, and how do I get back into doing that? So I spend, I don't know, probably a couple hours a day now just prospecting people and creating relationships, and really actually screen recorded a video of this for my team the other day. I'd be happy to post it in whatever group this is. But I screen recorded what I do when I prospect. So basically, you'll see me just click on Instagram names, see if these people are my people. I'll click on their photos, I'll comment on a photo, I'll send them a message, and basically it's just relationship building. I have music playing, I don't talk about Beachbody at all, I don't invite them to anything. I am not a fan of sending a message that's like, hey girl, what do you think of getting fit? Join my group that's starting blah, blah, blah. I am all about creating a relationship first and then seeing if we're compatible, and then I'll, get to the point. But that is really how I prospect.
I have another question. Do you use a third party to help you with likes on Instagram? And I don't mean like buying likes. I just mean somebody who helps you comment and like and do things on Instagram, or do you do it all yourself?
Nope. One time 3 years ago, this person from the Philippines named Jay something, he like literally messages every Beachbody coach ever. I hired him for 2 weeks, and then I felt so weird about someone logging into my Instagram that I unhired him. But I've never used like a third party tool I know that girls on my team have used like something called Jumper 21 or something like that. And then there's another thing that I've heard about that I have some 4- and 5-star coaches that have used that to get to 10,000 likes. But I have personally never used that, which is why my Instagram has been stuck at 52,000 followers for like 90 months because I try my hardest to do it all organically. It takes a lot of work because you have to reach out to people and do all the hashtags, and then that's constantly changing, and then sometimes you get shadow banned, and then it's kind of like, I personally feel like Instagram, the organic way, is like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. But it really does pay off in the long run because everybody who's following me is my actual follower. And I am, one thing that Colleen probably knows this about me, but I'm like paranoia queen. And I will not link anything to my Instagram. Like when people were saying that they were getting their Instagram shut down because they were using those, I was like, I knew it. I said it from the beginning and I would never do that. I just feel like my Instagram is like, I don't know, it's me, it's my personality, it's everything that I talk to my followers about, and I feel connected to people there. And I never wanted to kind of like, mesh those two things. It does take a long time. I've been a coach for 6 years. So I've had that Instagram for 6 years. I only have 50,000 followers. So it's the long game,
And do you have an assistant? And if so, what tasks or help does he or she offer?
I do have an assistant. I have a wonderful assistant who, so basically she creates all the pretty graphics for me because I am not good at graphics and it takes me a very long time to do that, and my time's better spent doing other things. She will do mass email follow-ups for me. So I'll write an email to all the people I've been talking to, and then she'll go ahead and send those out for me. She will put my team call recordings and live video recordings. She'll put them into YouTube and put them on our team YouTube channel. What else does she do? She does a lot of my website stuff, like updating the calendar and the recognition. She does my leaderboards. But I have never had someone take over my messaging or anything like that. Like that's all still me.
Okay, so Miranda asked, what did your push for 15 new coaches look like last month, scheduling and promoting wise?
Yeah, I think for me, I tend to fall into, when I'm in a point in my business where I feel, it's not a secret because I talk about this on my Instagram, but I went through a really tough year last year. I struggled really hard with postpartum. I struggled really hard with becoming a mom and changing who I was. So I kind of took a little bit of a back seat from recruiting because I felt like, how am I going to, coach these people when I can't even brush my teeth and take a shower and take care of myself? I personally feel like I am out of that, which feels amazing, and my team has helped me through that. But I noticed about myself in that year that when I am in a state of my business where I don't feel good, I don't feel inspiring, I don't feel like I'm being productive, I go into things that I feel comfortable doing. So I'll talk to my team a lot. I'll, get really serious about, but I'm concentrating on my downline, and I'll really concentrate on things that aren't, that don't make me grow or push me out of my comfort zone. So last month I had a goal of spending 90% of my time again on only conversations with new people. So I got into a bad habit in my business all of last year of really not talking to a lot of people, because I just felt more comfortable talking to my team. And I felt like I was being a good leader by doing that, like fostering them and helping them. But really what I saw was they took a cue from me, and that wasn't great for their businesses. So last month I was like, okay, gotta pull my big girl panties up and concentrate 90% again to what got me here, is gonna get me there again. So I concentrated 90% of my time on new conversations, a lot of private stuff. A lot of what people don't know is that we focus a lot on, posts and how many likes do they get and how much attention does it get. But all the magic happens in the private conversations. I mean, I'm not saying you don't need to post, because obviously it's twofold and it doesn't work that way. But everything really happens. Like I stayed up till midnight talking to people. I would wake up early, talk to people before my workout at 5:45, and really just getting back to, creating that one-on-one relationship, so that 90-10.
All right, I have another question for you. Kind of talking about like private conversations, and that's like my favorite part of this business, and I wish I could just I guess I could do that all day, but we got other things to do. But when you're I feel like I'm good at inviting and sharing, so much so that I get people to join me, but then they really didn't want to do this. So I'm curious if you have any tips on how you really find that necessity, when you're inviting someone, is there a specific question that you're asking them that you feel gets them to be oh yeah, I really want to do that, and then they actually do want to do it? Does that question make sense?
Yes. So I've been fascinated with this idea of webinars. I used to do all sneak peeks, 3-day sneak peeks to get people to sign up. And I started reading this book about, you guys are going to laugh. Oh my gosh, what is the title of this book? It's all about an alter ego. And it's all about how everybody who is famous or really good at playing sports, or in the public eye, or has a job that is completely different than their personality, they have this alter ego. The example that's used a lot in the book is Beyonce, how she created Sasha Fierce for when she's on stage, because she felt really uncomfortable singing the song she was singing, because she's from a really religious family. And that's who she is on stage. And then in her personal life, she's Beyonce. And I really started thinking about, okay, in these conversations, what I need to attract more people like me, because I was having the same problem. I was attracting sort of timid, anxiety-filled, okay, I can get them to sign up, but then can they post a workout picture, or can they talk to other people? And one of the chapters in the book is all about webinars and how they work so well, and how if you can portray your alter ego on, this hour-long webinar, what is your alter ego in the other people? What are the qualities that you'd like to answer for them? And one of the tips was starting with questions that they would want answered in their life. So I'm doing a webinar this week, and I think there's 180 people already signed up for it. And the whole first 5 minutes is all about asking them questions that they would want answered in their life. So it's basically what if I could, give you more time with your children? Or what if I could answer X, Y, and Z for you? And really putting the weight back on the other person versus trying to sell yourself and the program. And I think for me, that was a total aha moment, because I'm always very well, I've done this and this is my story and this is what the company has to offer. And that sounds great. But then once they sign up, they're like, okay, great, but that's not me. And I have these questions to be answered. So I think the switch that I feel like I'm making now is more, instead of I did X, Y, and Z, it's, hey, what do you want to do? And then putting the weight back on them so they have to answer me. And then I can come back with, well, here's what we can offer you to be able to do that, if that makes sense.
Okay, so Joy asked, how much expanding your network is online versus in person?
I would say 99.9% online, maybe like 0.002% in person.
I love it. I love it. Okay, guys, we have about time for one more question. Any takers?
I would love to ask another one. I saw recently on your, I mean, it wasn't even recently, probably a couple months ago, you had on your Instagram stories like a bunch of diamonds pop in one day, on a Thursday. Did you guys do a big push group for that, or what was the back end of that? Were you guys leading off for a certain goal?
Yeah, so we actually did something totally different this year. That was in my whole downline. That wasn't just mine, so don't think that. But we did a team-wide, team-run retreat. So anybody in the downline could qualify, no matter who your coach was. And that was the first time we've ever done that as a community. So me and my leaders, so if you were already diamond and above, you had the chance to kind of bring emerald and aboves into this group, and we all pushed together. So instead of me saying, I'm going to run this retreat for my people, and then my coaches feeling like they either don't have the funds or the team to run a retreat for themselves, we all teamed up together. And it was actually really awesome because I got to learn so much about everybody in my downline. And there was about 35 people at the retreat, and most of them weren't my coaches. And it was awesome because now I have relationships with so many people, but we all came together and we all split the cost of everything. So it was very low kind of, pressure on everybody. So I think it costs in total maybe $200 a person, because all of our leaders split everything, including the house and food. And then it was just really a big hangout because we decided we didn't want to do any fancy activities or anything. We just wanted to concentrate on training and getting to know each other. And that's really what the whole thing was kind of like portrayed as too. So that was what that came from.
Okay, so what did you do to keep the engagement up while that push was happening?
I think it's interesting, this question, and this does plague me because people get really excited in the beginning and then they peter out, and that's just kind of human nature. But I heard this quote the other day and I was obsessed with it. You can't bring your ducks to Eagle School. And I have learned recently that if you have to constantly be fluffing your coaches, especially in a diamond push where they want to be going, and you have to constantly be reminding them, have you done your work and have you checked in with the group, then you might have some ducks that you're hoping are eagles, right? And just at the end of the day, you can't bring your ducks to Eagle School because they'll never learn how to be an eagle. So for me, in the beginning of the push, I always get so excited and so jazzed. And then literally all of the energy gets sucked out of me when there's like 2 comments instead of the 500 that I thought there were going to be. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited. We're holding a retreat. And then everyone's like, oh, cool. But do you want to know what is behind that? Anxiety, fear of failure. I want to go to that, but I don't know if I can qualify for that. That is 100% why people aren't as excited as you. And then when people back off and sit back in the group, what's behind that is fear, anxiety. They don't want to fail. Maybe they came into it excited and then they realized, oh crap, there's only 2 weeks left and I'm really far from my goal. Everything in a conversation or in a group where people aren't participating, that's their own insecurities coming out into the group. So I really had to realize that early on. And I poured my energy into the people who were participating. And that's one of my downfalls as a leader, is that I have a tendency to be drawn to the people that go away. I'm like, well, where are you? And then I kind of miss the opportunity to cultivate the people who do want to be there. So I really made a conscious effort on, okay, who is participating? Don't get distracted by, it's kind of like that girl who only likes the guy who doesn't like her. Like, I feel like that's me. I'm like, my coaches, the ones who like don't want to be there, I'm like, please be here. And then the ones who do want to be there, I'm like, yeah, you're cool, but like this person over here needs my attention. So I think that I really realized, especially in that push, if you just concentrate, don't leave the other people to the wayside, but if you concentrate most of your efforts on the people who are giving you their efforts, you'll feel so much better about it. And then, at the end of the day, maybe those people who aren't participating and you're so worried about, maybe they're just not eagles and they're actually the ducks.
So good. Awesome. Seriously, thank you so much. We are out of time, so we really appreciate it. I have a full page of notes. Everyone else, I'm sure, took tons of notes as well. Thank you. Thanks for everyone being here too, and I'll see most of you guys next week. See you later. Thanks, Bonnie.